Well, greetings and salutations, guys. Welcome to the Movie Vlog, my channel, of course, here on YouTube. And this quick, instant little video here to talk about a piece of news that just dropped on now. As most of you guys know, there has been some drama, if you will, going on that seemingly all comes from Tyrese Gibson towards Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, all of which seems to be perpetuated the fact that, the studio, Universal, wants Dwayne Johnson to do a spin-off movie with his character and the character of Jason Statham. They want it so much that they were actually going to push off Fast and Furious 9 so they could get this one out the door first. That, for some reason, didn't sit well with Gibson, who's been waging a one-man war publicly, trying to shame Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, trying to get him to not doing it, calling him all sorts of names. Now, I've never understood his position on this because it's not like Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson is the one who's making it happen. Don't overestimate how much power Dwayne Johnson has in Hollywood. He's a big star, yes, but movie studios are the ones with all the power. They do what they want to do. If they want to make a movie with, Dwayne Johnson's character and Jason Statham's character, they're going to do it. If they don't want to do it, doesn't matter how much Dwayne Johnson asks for one. They're not going to do it. That's just the way it is. But he apparently has been making him the target, starting all this online feud. Well, now it's gone one step further. It's being reported everywhere that Tyrese Gibson is now claiming that he is threatening to leave the Fast and Furious franchise if Dwayne Johnson comes back for Fast and the Furious 9. Now, he put up this Instagram post that you can see here, right here in front of me. Now, we'll get in a little bit closer. Oddly enough, it's a picture of Vin Diesel, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, of course, Tyrese there as well. But let's zoom in a little bit on the actual text. And this is what he just put out to his fans. "Hello, world. Hello, loyal fans and loved ones from our," he put that in capital letters, like it's not The Rock's, "our Fast universe. I'm sorry to announce that if Dwayne is in Fast 9, there will be no more Roman Pierce. You mess with my family and my daughter's survival, I mess with yours." No idea what he's talking about there. "Close your eyes, dude. You're a clown." Then he goes on to call him some names. "All my real men on integrity, my real ones out there, stand up, folks. That GP to the gym and get big, naturally no juice." So he's making some accusations now. He's getting personal with The Rock. "Spin off these. Who's got his arm on my shoulder and who's standing alone? Yada, yada, yada." Tyrese Gibson is a little whiny bitch. I mean, seriously, I've been a fan of his. I have enjoyed his work. I like what he does, generally speaking. But he has been a whiny little baby about this entire situation. I'm sorry. Oh no. Might the 9th installment of this film franchise that you are a side note in, by the way. I like Roman in the movies, but let's call it what it is. You're a side note in these films. You are a kind of useless. You're as useful as breasts on a bull. I mean, that's how useless your character is. But he's fun to have around. I like him, and I like you. But you've been a whiny little suck baby about this entire thing. Is there? Oh no, they might put off the 9th installment of my film by a year or two. Oh no, and he needs a scapegoat. Takes a ride. Now coming out and threatening, "I'm not going to be in Fast 9 if Dwayne comes back." You just, dude, seriously, you just brought a Nerf bat to a gunfight. If you're threatening, who do you think the studio is going to side with? If you make demands like that, if you put out like these sorts of, look, it's basically this. It's either him or me. Who do you think they're going to go with? Who do you honestly think they're going to, who do you think the fans honestly want to go with? Like, take the studio out of it for a second. You go to the average wide movie-going audience fans. If they have a choice, you can either see, Hobbs, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, or Roman, Tyrese Gibson, in the next Fast and the Furious movie. Who do you think the average fan is more interested in seeing? Who do you think gets more butts in the seats? Either you or Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. I got a hint for you. The first movie that Dwayne Johnson showed up, there's a reason your box office exploded at that point. This is a fight you cannot win. And I don't know what's more sad and pathetic. If it's sad and pathetic, which is more sad and pathetic, that Tyrese Gibson is even doing this at all, or does Tyrese Gibson actually think he has more support than Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson? Look, this would be a totally different scenario If Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson had come out and done something completely unreasonable, completely irrational, if Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson got on Twitter and Instagram, whatever said, unless you give me a standalone movie with me and Jason Statham, I'm walking from all this. Maybe if he did that, there'd be some reasonable things here. All that happened, as far as I can tell, is the studio decided they wanted to do a spin-off film, and they bumped off Fast 9 a year or two. And even Vin Diesel came out and said, hey, we need that extra year or two to really get ourselves back on track. So Vin Diesel's being good about it. Everybody else is being good about it, except Tyrese Gibson. I don't know if he's having mental health issues. If that's the case, I feel badly for him and I hope he gets help. If not, he's just being a whiny little baby. Listen, I'm going to throw it open to you guys here. The reason I'm doing this live because I don't want just my opinion on this. I want to hear your opinion. If you're watching this live right now, you can jump on Twitter and tweet to me at John Campea. I want to get your guys' thoughts and opinions. I'm going to pull a bunch of your tweets on here on the show, and I want to talk about your thoughts and opinions on this. What is your take on all this? Mine is pretty simple. Look, I like to try to see both sides of an argument. I like to try to understand and try to at least get where the other side is coming from and look at the valid points they may have. But I'm sitting here as an average movie-going audience member, and I'm thinking, this guy has just lost his mind. This guy is the biggest baby in the history of Hollywood. He clearly has an overinflated self-worth. If he thinks he's worth anywhere near as much as Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson to either the audience, to the franchise, or to the studio at all, he's completely disassociated himself with reality. There's a total disconnect here between this guy's head and what reality is. I just don't see any way, shape, or form that you can look at this as anything but, oh, Tyrese Gibson is not only sinking himself as far as the biggest franchise he would ever have been involved with Fast and the Furious, he's killing his career. Who is going to want to work with this guy? Like, seriously, like, oh, I can do something with Tyrese Gibson? Okay, well, what happens if some good things start going for me and I get offered something else? Is he going to turn on me publicly too? Seriously, who is going to be left that wants to work with Tyrese Gibson after this? Now, the only thing I can see happening that would salvage any of this is if, I'm going to bring up this picture again, okay? Is what if this is all one big giant troll? What if that, and it's not just Tyrese, but Dwayne Johnson's in on it, Vin Diesel's in on it. What if all of this is just some big troll of the audience? I did suspect that before. I don't think that's the case anymore, but it's possible. What if? If it is, bravo to all of you, and bravo to Tyrese Gibson for being willing to be the bad guy in it. But again, I don't think that's the case anymore. When this whole thing first started, I thought maybe there's a possibility this is them just trolling us a little bit, right? Just having some fun with the audience. What if that's the case? But I actually don't think that's the case anymore. Maybe some of you do. All right, guys, I've said my piece. Let me open up my Twitter feed here. I want to get your guys' thoughts on this and see what you think about this whole situation, about, this whole thing with Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, this whole thing with Tyrese Gibson. Once again, if you've got a thought or an opinion, what do you think is going on here? Jump on Twitter right now and tweet to me at John Campea. All right, let me bring up the first tweet that I have coming in here today. The first tweet coming from you guys comes to us from Armored Saiyan, who writes, John, my take is that spinoff will be amazing. That might refuel the Fast 9 franchise, fingers crossed. I completely agree with you. This spinoff is a great idea for a movie. Like, one of the things that I wanted, like, I liked Fast 8. I had a good time with it. But one of the things I wanted more of is more of Dwayne Johnson and Jason Statham, the way they built those characters up, and we never got to actually see the fight. They tried to fight in that whole prison break scene, but they never actually got around to going toe-to-toe. I want to see them go toe-to-toe. Now, obviously, with the way the franchise has gone, these guys would probably be on the same side. But still, they had great chemistry together. There was a great dynamic with them. I think the stuff they were doing played off incredibly well. I think it's a fantastic idea, and you're right. I think it will breathe more new life into the Fast and Furious franchise. So I completely agree with you on that, Armored Saiyan. And I think there's probably a lot of people out there that think the same way too. Okay, let's try this next one. This next opinion comes to us from Hanich DH2 writing, John, I believe it's just jealousy. Rock being one of the biggest, if not the biggest movie star, and him, Gibson, being no one. Look, and it's true. He's a nobody in this business. Like, he's about just a couple of shades bigger than, I don't know, somebody you've never heard of. I mean, and that's the thing. He is an afterthought in this franchise. You would think that a guy in his position would just be thrilled to be a part of one of the biggest film franchises in the world right now. And not think that he's in any way, shape, or form the cornerstone, or that he is in any way more important to this franchise than The Rock. Has he been around longer than The Rock? Absolutely he has. Is he now more important than The Rock is in this franchise? I don't think so. Okay, let's check this out. Next opinion comes to us from Alex Bamford 3, who writes, John, this started off as a minor, maybe butthurt disagreement with Tyrese Gibson. Now I'm just asking why. This, in my opinion, is getting dumb. I agree with you. Like, even at first, I thought it was ill-advised for Tyrese to even mention anything about it. Like, he just came across as kind of being a poor sport. Like, look, if the Dwayne Johnson and Jason Statham movie takes off as a spinoff and is big successful, that only helps the Fast and Furious franchise overall. It can do nothing but help everything. Rising tide raises all ships, or rising tide raises all ships, whatever the saying is. I mean, that's how we should have looked at it. And I agree. At first, it was just kind of minor, but it was like, oh, come on, Tyrese, you're being silly. Just knock it off. But now this, threatening to leave the franchise if he doesn't get his way. Next tweet comes to us from Byron Horde, who writes, bye, Tyrese. Yeah, see you later. Don't let the door hit you on the way out. Let's see. Naji Ishag writes, John, this franchise is gone for too long anyway. You know, you're not the only one to think that. But you can't argue with the fact that you can't really say it's gone on for too long if it continues to make huge amounts of money. And if it's making huge amounts of money, that means the audience is continuing to come out to see it. Now, I agree. They're running the risk of getting really tired. Now, I liked Fast 8. I did. I enjoyed it. But I feel, you can start to feel a little bit of the air coming out of the balloon on it. And after 8 films, obviously, I mean, they've done great. That only more, I think, emphasizes the point that having some spin-offs to re-energize the franchise is nothing but a good thing. And maybe it can't save the franchise. Maybe it won't re-energize it. But it certainly can't hurt. So that's what I'm thinking about anyway. Let's see. Next one comes to us from Ed Has Tweets, writes, John, he's having a no good blank day. And you know what? Hey, who among us have not had a terrible day and then either posted something on Facebook or posted something on Twitter or posted something on Instagram that we probably regret that we posted? Hey, I think we've all had that type of day. Maybe Tyrese is having that kind of day too. Unfortunately, though, he's now backed himself into a corner. When you come out with ultimatums and you say, if he comes back, I'm not coming back. Well, now you're in a no-win situation because clearly the studio's not going to give in. And now where does that leave you? You can change your mind. If Tyrese changes his mind, fine. But now he's going to lose face to the audience because he just got up on a big old soapbox and gave this big ultimatum. Said, I'm leaving if Dwayne Rock comes back. Now you're stuck. And maybe it was just a bad day. And maybe he'll come out and say he regrets what he wrote. And I'll appreciate that if he does. I'll respect that if he does. But he's kind of backed himself into a corner now, which is kind of unfortunate. Next tweet comes to us from Victor Garrity1, who writes, John, thanks to Tyrese, I no longer gag about Fantastic Nine, but I want to see Hobbs more than ever. He is permanently hurting the main franchise. I thank you. You have just actually got to one of the most important parts of this whole thing, which is this. For a guy who claims, Tyrese Gibson, claiming, I'm the one who loves the Fast and Furious franchise, you are doing irreparable damage to the franchise by carrying on this feud, number one, and number two, and most importantly, carrying it on publicly. How do you think, this whole thing, this whole franchise is supposed to be about family. This whole thing, we're supposed to look at you guys as the cast as family. We're supposed to see this whole Fast and Furious thing as one big family. And by you airing all of your whiny cryberry BS, but by you airing all this publicly, you are damaging the perception of the whole franchise. You're damaging the perception of the cast. You're damaging the property. This property, which has been the biggest paydays in your career, this thing you so claim you love so much, you're damaging it irreparably. You are causing irreparable damage. And so now I don't believe a thing you say when you say, oh, that you really love this franchise. No, you don't. If you love this franchise, you would not be dragging it through the mud right now, which is what you were doing. You would not be damaging it just for the sake of your own ego like you're damaging it right now. And that's just the way I see it. So thank you. I completely agree with you. All right. Next thing comes up. Next tweet comes to us from Vladimir Petrosk, who writes, John, I really hope Tyrese quits. Never liked him. He could never act. Best of luck with Dancing with the Stars. Well, look, this is the thing that irritates me so much, is that I like Tyrese Gibson. Is he the strongest actor in the world? No, he's not. But he does a little bit of what The Rock does in the sense that he gets by on his charm and his charisma. And his charm and charisma are pretty good, and I find entertaining. And that's what irritates me the most. I could care less if I thought Tyrese Gibson was just some useless, talentless hack, and I could care less about anything. I just go, some loser running his mouth. It irritates me more because I like Tyrese Gibson. And that's what bothers me, is that he, I believe, is a good addition to the Fast and the Furious films. I believe he never plays really important roles, his character, but I believe having him there is a benefit to the films. And the fact that this guy, who I believe is a positive for the franchise, is running his mouth like this, damaging the property, is all the more concerning. And I'm sure you're not the only one, Vladimir. I'm sure there are other people out there who probably don't appreciate him the way I appreciate him, so I don't think you're alone. All right, let's try this one. This one comes to us from Mr. Rickene J21 writes, John, if the Tyrese being I like that. If the Tyrese being pissed at The Rock is fake, it's pretty effed up using your own daughter to further this. And you know what? I think you just pointed out a really valid argument about why this is not being faked. Because apparently right now, and I feel terrible for him, but he's in a custody battle apparently right now in real life with his wife or ex-wife, whatever they are at this point, over their daughter. And that's horrible. I feel terrible for him. That's a terrible thing. And maybe that's contributing to him having a bad day and running off his mouth on social media when he shouldn't be. I mean, if I was Vin Diesel, I would have hired 20 security guys to lock Tyrese in a room separated from all computers and personal communication devices until they were ready to start shooting Fast 9. And not risk the fact that Tyrese would hop on social media and start running his stupid mouth again. But you know what? I think you're right, though. I think you raise a great point of why this is probably not just some weird publicity stunt, because it just bringing his own kid into it, that would be horrible. All right. Kason Rogers writes, John, I just saw something about him begging fans to help him get to see his daughter. Again, terrible situation. I feel badly for him. Going on social media and making things public is not going to help your cause with either Universal and the Fast and Furious franchise or with any kind of legal matters for that case. Next one comes to us from Spencer112358, who writes, if I was a studio, I would get rid of him. You can't have someone making demands like this. It's only drama to the set. Completely agree. As a matter of fact, at this point, it's too late. If I'm the studio head, I can't trust Tyrese Gibson anymore. Maybe he's having a horrible day. Maybe tomorrow morning he'll regret. Maybe tomorrow he'll apologize for the statement and say, no, it's all good. I can be in the movie and be with The Rock on the movie too, blah, blah, blah. But I think at this point now, if you're the head of the studio, if you're Universal, you've got to cut bait. You have to part ways with this guy, because if he's doing this, again, big important thing is he's damaging the franchise. He's damaging the public perception of the franchise. And if he's this unstable and this unreliable that at the drop of a hat, he could run his mouth and damage the property, then we can't have him anymore. And now at this point, it's probably good that Fast and the Furious 9 is being pushed off, because they need to have some time, a couple of years, to separate this whole drama that Tyrese has been causing. So you're probably right. At this point, the studios probably have no choice. They probably got to get rid of him. You just can't trust him anymore. There is no way to trust him. Let's see. The Kyle Ortega writes, John, Tyrese is acting like a girl. The Rock effed and never called back. Oh, I see what you're saying. Well, yeah, he kind of is. He's kind of acting like that. I can't, argue with you there. This one comes to us from Vegeta Solo 1, writes, John, I think the rivalry is fake between Tyrese and The Rock, honestly. What do you think? Publicity? I thought that before. I thought there was a possibility before of that happening, but he has escalated this to the fact that he's bringing in real life drama with his daughter and things like that. Let's put it this way. Much like what one of the other commenters said, if this is fake and if this is all for publicity, they've taken it too far and I'm not amused anymore. Before I was like, yeah, this is great. And Tyrese is playing the back end, blah, blah, blah. But I think the previous tweeter raised a great point. If it is fake, they've taken it way too far. And that's why I don't think anymore I don't really think there's a real chance this could be fake, because bringing his daughter into this when he's got real life drama going on with his daughter, that's pretty messed up. Let's see. Next one. Hannah DH2 writes, John, Fast 10 will be the last movie in the franchise, said the director studio. Don't believe it. Don't believe it. They will continue to make these movies as long as they make money. They will absolutely continue to make these movies as long as they make money. All right, the next one says, JC Green YT writes, John, if Tyrese continues these shenanigans, he'll be out of the franchise. So my question is, will the studio ever intervene? I think it's done. Like I just mentioned because of a previous tweet, I think he's done. I think they have to remove him. They have to get rid of him. All right, the next one comes to us from Star Wars Therapy. I love that name. John, don't forget about the Vin Diesel rift earlier this year. See, I still don't know if that was legit or not, but clearly there was, if it was to be believed, there's some tension between Vin and The Rock as well. Maybe it's over the same Fast 9 stuff, but if it was, look at how Vin Diesel dealt with it, and look how Tyrese Gibson is dealing with it. Look, you have teams of people working together for years and years and years and years. You'd be crazy not to think that there's problems, some problems. Hopefully most of them get handled and they get worked through and handled. But so obviously there's going to be some behind the scenes drama. The difference is that the question isn't, is there drama? The question is, how do you deal with the drama? Do you take to Twitter and start fighting with people over Twitter? Is that the way to do it? Especially when you're working on a movie franchise that relies on public perception for your success. I mean, that's a little bit different. Let's see. This comment comes to us from Dessa Sovesgo XLV writes, John, to be honest, I found this funny in the beginning, but now it's just embarrassing and pathetic. The studios should have handled this. And again, I agree. You know what? I suspect the studio probably did step in, but anything short of wrestling Tyrese's phone away from him and telling him, shut up. They may have done that, but you can't stop a grown man from picking up his phone and sending out an Instagram. I mean, what were they supposed to do? This one comes to us from Holy2332 writes, John, Tyrese is forever a meme. I don't think you're wrong about that. I am Kyle T. Johnson writes, John, I really don't think he would be missed. They have had so many characters come and go. I don't see him being gone making a difference. You know what? And I think that's adds to the sadness of all this for Tyrese Gibson and him thinking he was more important than he is. You're right. I think even without this drama, if Roman's character was suddenly not there in the next movie, I don't think anybody would have noticed. I really don't think many people would have cared. Let's see this. Armored Saint say, does Tyrese really think he can win over The Rock? Man, I can't imagine that you would be that deluded to think you could get into a public battle with The Rock and win. You think the fans are going to flood to your side? They're not. The studio ain't going to flood to your side. And you know what? No matter if you put up that picture of you and Vin Diesel with Vin Diesel putting his arm around your neck like I got your back. Yeah, guess what? If it comes down to it and the studios give it to Vin Diesel and say, hey, Vin, we can only keep The Rock or Tyrese Gibson. Who do we keep? The Rock's a businessman. I'm going to tell you, Vin Diesel's a businessman. I'll tell you right now who Vin Diesel's going to keep. He's going to keep Dwayne The Rock Johnson. He's going to keep the name that brings in the butts and puts them in the seats. That's who he's going to keep. And you are fooling yourself awfully if you think that that's going to be different. Now, offering more light on this is another tweet coming out to us from Rooster Gentry writes, John, Tyrese had a meltdown on Facebook about losing visitation with his daughter. He was crying, and now this happens. Again, it's a thing of a guy's having a terrible day. You've had terrible days. I've had terrible days. We've all put things up on social media that we regret. The difference is we're not mega superstars where our stupid tweets make the national news. Unfortunately, And again, I feel horrible for Tyrese Gibson being in a situation like this. But unfortunately, you have to be cognizant of the fact that you're not everybody else. When you tweet out something, it's going to get a lot more public attention than if I tweet out something or if the rest of us tweet out something. And you can't carry on this grudge feud and then hop on and make an ultimatum saying, if The Rock comes back, I'm not coming back. It doesn't matter what you're going through in your personal life. And again, I feel terrible that he's going through certain things, but the damage is now done. The damage is done. And I don't know how you walk this back. I don't know how you take this back. Well, listen, guys, at any rate, this is obviously going to be something that's going to elicit a lot of emotion and a lot of opinions, and I want to hear your thoughts on this. Do you think that he's got a point? Do you think Tyrese Gibson has a point? Do you think that maybe they shouldn't be doing this spin-off movie? Even if so, do you think it's right that he took it publicly? Jump into the comment section and let me know your thoughts. Listen, guys, as always, make sure you subscribe to my YouTube channel, click the thumbs up button, follow me on social media, simply at John Campea. Thank you to all you guys who've been sending in your tweets. My name is John Campea, guys, and until the next video,